Okay, we're recording live.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by. Our guest today is the executive director of the Whistler Adaptive Sports Program. Having grown up in Whistler on and off the slopes, Chelsey has worked as a ski guide, coach, and instructor in various sports disciplines. From junior ski racer to be given the opportunity in the 2010 Olympics in Whistler to be involved in creating one of the most major sports legacies for the community. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe and like and share and all that good stuff. This episode is also sponsored by Creekside Health in Whistler. Check out Creekside if you're ever in Whistler. Better health together. But without further ado, Chelsey Walker. Chelsey, how are you doing today? Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, great. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation today.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we're kind of in mid-November here, and we're in North Vancouver, Devon. I'm in North Vancouver, Devon's in Richmond, and you're in Pemberton, Whistler. So do you have snow? I know we had snow on the local mountains here yesterday. Do you guys have any? Was it snowing up there last night? Or?
Yeah, it's snowing to about 6,000 feet. So it's definitely on its way. And then with this atmospheric river heading our way this weekend, I'm sure we're going to get. I hope the freezing level stay low so we don't get any flooding. That's the big thing.
Yeah, we had the atmospheric river. I heard that Reiko, my wife, said it's an atmospheric river, and I'm like, what the heck is that? We have the heat dome in the summer, and now we have the atmospheric river in October. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So what we do at the beginning of every one of our shows here is we do something called Two Truths and a Lie. So Chelsey has provided us with a couple little points here, and Devon and I are going to guess which is the lie out of these three items. Okay, so you're ready, Dev?
Yeah, ready.
Okay, number one. I am left-handed like my mom, but I can't use left-handed scissors. Okay, number two. This is a good one. I like this one. I built a greenhouse where Sir Edmund Hillary. There's got to be if that's true, there's got to be a backstory on that. That's pretty neat. And number three, I have 5 chickens. So you're in the Whistler Pemberton area, you get tons of snow. Chickens are usually, live outside, I'm assuming, unless they're in your house running around like cats. Maybe a heated coop. Boy, so what do you think, Dad? What do you think is not true out of these?
I don't know. I think maybe she doesn't like to use left-handed scissors. Maybe there's only 3 chickens, not 5.
I
don't know.
That's true. And then I'm gonna say, because I'm left-handed. Well, technically, I write with my left hand, but I do everything else with my right hand. So I don't know if that. But I can't use those left-handed scissors. The Sir Edmund Hillary greenhouse, I think that sounds like it's true. It's kind of it's one of those things that it's true. I think, I don't know, maybe
it's too out there.
I go with the chickens. Did you go with the chickens?
I go with the chickens.
I'll go with the chickens too.
Yeah, no, chickens are true.
Chickens are true.
Yeah, we had 6, and unfortunately one passed away in her sleep this summer.
Damn. Oh no. So they have a nice warm coop, I guess.
Nice warm coop, and it's actually Fort Chicken. So we built a bear-proof, predator-proof coop. Yeah. It's like 9 feet tall, and it's like Alcatraz for chickens. But they're nice and safe, and the bears, it's all electrified. So they.
Oh, it's electrified.
Chickens, yeah. So the bears, they don't bother the chickens because bears love chickens. It's wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they love chickens. So they hit the fence the first day we put up the electric fence, and the bears haven't been back. So it's been good.
Wow. Yeah, the bears, the bobcats, the cougars, the everything.
The weasels, the ravens.
Everything loves the chickens. I know. Just down the road from just a couple blocks down, my daughter's boyfriend, they have a big chicken coop, and we get nice fresh eggs from them. And I'm like, wow, it's just this big, massive structure in their backyard. They've got all these chickens, and they're quite cheeky too. They come out and they peck at you, and they're a little bit aggressive. So okay, so you do have the chickens. Okay, what are we thinking here? So what's the Edmund Hillary story is not true? I don't know.
No, that's 100% true.
That's true. So it's a left-handed. Okay, so
I'm not left-handed.
You're not left-handed. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. I actually threw the scissors things in there just to mess it up a bit because I can't use those things that I have left.
So what about this greenhouse building? Yeah.
No, when I was 17, I had a really cool opportunity to work with the Himalaya Trust. And so you had to raise the money yourself to go on the trip. And Pete Hillary organized it. And we went over, and it coincided with the 40th anniversary of the first descent of Mount Everest.
Wow.
And so we stayed at Angrita's house, who was the Siddhar for the expedition, and everybody was there. So, literally we built a greenhouse with Sir Edmund and sat there and sorted nuts and bolts and put everything together and all the poly and it wasn't just a greenhouse. We actually built an outhouse. I didn't want to put that in the podcast.
Wow.
At the Kunde Hospital. But like Chris Bonington was there.
Chris Bonington was there too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Reinhold Messner. Like we had chai with Reinhold, and everybody who's anybody
killing me
in the Himalayas during the last 40 years at that time was in like the middle of the Himalayas hanging out. Yeah, it was really cool.
Wow. So sorry, what year was this you were there? When was this? This was,
oh gosh, so this would have been 1992.
92.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think we were there in 92.
Yeah, 1993, 93. So it would have been going into 93. Yeah. So
I'm trying to think, because I know Reiko and we did a trek around the Annapurna circuit about 3 weeks in, I think it was 92 in Nepal. Yeah. Had the eye opener of Kathmandu. That's quite the experience in 92. It was
oh yeah. Every diesel that goes there to die.
Yes. That's a good one. That's so true. Oh my, I've never seen so much air pollution or stuff in my, it was like going back 150 years for sure. Quite an experience. Yeah. Well, that's really, really cool. Wow. So you got Edmund Hillary, you have Messner, you had Bonington, you had all these big time mountaineers. That's wow.
That's epic.
That is absolutely epic.
But the coolest thing, and this is a lot about what informs the work I do today, was they weren't there for glory. They weren't there to soak up the media. They were there to literally build an outhouse, to build a greenhouse, to continually give back. And not a lot of people know this about Edmund and Pete, but Edmund's wife and daughter were killed in a plane crash in the Himalayas, and so he actually ended up at Lukla building the airstrips. You could fly in. You didn't have to go from Ptsd. You could actually fly into Lukla. Mm-hmm. And he founded the Himalaya Trust in their honor and their memory, and has done so much great work, building schools and hospitals and just giving back. So truly a great man.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that he did a lot there. I didn't realize that was, about the backstory to that. Yeah, wow, yeah, and incredible. He's a Kiwi, right?
Kiwi? Yeah, he's a beekeeper.
Yeah, that's right. He was a Kiwi beekeeper, and him and Tenzing Norgay were the two first to make it to the summit of Everest. Yeah, back in 1950.
1953.
Right? Yeah, 53.
So it was January of 53. We were there.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's incredible. So that led you, I guess. That's really cool. So very interesting. So that led you into, well, I mean, you were obviously a skier, as Devin mentioned, and all this other stuff here. But what led you to working with Whistler Adaptive? Actually, what is adaptive sport? What exactly is adaptive sport for our listeners here?
Yeah, so adaptive sport is creating sport opportunities with adaptations for individuals with a disability. So those could be social adaptations, physical adaptations, specialized equipment, slightly different techniques to do the sport, different classifications, and so people can compete. So a lot of people are familiar with the Olympic movement, but so adaptive sport feeds into the Paralympic movement as well as the Special Olympics. And, finally, also people who are neurodiverse, who don't fit into either.
Okay. Got it. So you've got, people with, I guess, cognitive, sensory, and also physical I guess disabilities. I don't know if you call it disabilities these days, but they still really use the word disabilities, but we like to say of all abilities. Right.
Yeah, and then also neurodiversity, because we, individuals, for example, on the autism spectrum or sensory processing disorder won't identify that that's a disability, and I agree with them. I mean, that's not necessarily a disability. It's just it's almost a superpower, right? We all have our own individual superpower, and our uniqueness, right? And so what makes us unique is what makes us special in this world. And
Right.
yeah, and then we also work with people with PTSD, right? So PTSD is considered a traumatic brain injury. It is classified as a disability through, the school of psychology. But again, it's more of a neurological condition, although it does have a physical manifestation.
And you also talk about physical literacy and the current health crisis. I noticed. So what's contributing to all of this that's going on right now in the world? I mean, I know we've got the pandemic, so people have been we've been kind of nudged out of our our regular daily activities and stuff. But yeah,
well, this actually precedes the pandemic. So the pandemic has definitely accelerated the health crisis. But as much as we're in a climate crisis, for the first time ever, my children's generation are going to live a shorter lifespan than my generation. And that's a lot to do with digitization and the overuse of technology and the lack of access to sport and recreation for all. And so as much as I work in adaptive sport, I'm truly passionate about making sure that everybody has access to sport and recreation, that it is almost a right that we are able to move our bodies. And the notion of physical literacy is relatively new, but what it is just like a numeric literacy or, reading literacy is an alphabet of movement, right? So it's all the fundamental movements we need as humans in order to perform our day-to-day routines. So not only do they inform sport and recreation, but they also help us age and stay active for life. Right. So you think about as a kid and even as an adult, I mean, physical literacy can be learned at any time. Is, when we're putting kids into sport, we're thinking about creating sport programs. We want to make sure people have three major areas of skill development. So one would be having object control. So whether that's hockey, whether that's soccer, whether that's baseball, learning throw, volleyball, how do you manipulate an object? Even frisbee is object control. And then locomotion. So how do we move ourselves? Hop, skip, jump, glide, wheel, right? Run, all these things that we need to be able to do in order to stay safe in our society, to be able to catch that bus, right? As much as, think about, Andre DeGrasse, like winning gold medal and, being really good at locomotion. When you're late, you need to be able to run. And then finally, body control. And so body control can be balance, it can be dodging, moving, so it's just really about all these different things that inform like an alphabet of what we need to be able to do. So, when you're 75 years old and you're out in your garden and you're clipping your rose bush and you're on that one foot, so all those body control movements you learned as a kid, allow you to still do that. And then if you stumble a little bit, maybe you hop, maybe you roll. So it's all these things that, as much as they're critical in younger age to inform lifelong activity, they're also, critical in our older age because it allows us to stay healthy longer.
I know. I mean, that's a really good example. And I have a good friend of mine. He's at Whistler. He's my neighbor, Paul, and he's a couple of years older than me. And we've had lots of discussions about health and activity. We mountain bike together. We ski and do all this stuff. And he's getting closer to 70. And something he said that really resonated with me before the pandemic. He says, like, Nigel, I'm not in it anymore to race you up the mountain or beat you on a mountain bike. It's all about longevity and just keeping moving. And that really hit me, is just like, just keep going, like just keep walking, keep moving, keep that body in flow, right? As opposed to, trying to raise your buddy up the top of the mountain or whatever it is, like we used to do. We still do sometimes, but just that, and it's that movement in it. And I think it's important for all, because I know, and some of my friends that I used to mountain bike race with years ago, I was always the last in our pack. I'd go out for the activity and I would survive and not do that well. But a lot of my buddies aren't riding. They're not doing anything anymore. And, we're the same age. And it's just that you just got to keep moving. You don't have to be racing. It's just that whole movement and physical, and, it's good for your mental well-being as well. So,
Absolutely.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a mental health benefit as much as a physical health benefit. And,
Right.
and, they've just done studies. So for every $1 we put into physical literacy programs and multi-sport, and I say multi-sport because if we're over specializing kids and youth at an early age, then they burn out. And plus they're not gaining that full benefit of physical literacy across multiple activities in sports that they might take up later in life as a master's at level athlete. And so for every $1 we put in, we save $3 in the healthcare system. Right. So preventative medicine and movement versus, having a reactive, healthcare system. And, you look at, they did a bunch of studies in Toronto where they took some x-rays of 21-year-olds femurs. And these 21-year-old femurs had less bone density than 7-year-old women. That's scary. Right? Because of the lack of inactivity, they weren't getting their 10,000 steps. They weren't moving. And so how can we, and we think about in Sea to Sky, we're like, oh, everybody's so active. Everybody's so, almost alpha in the way that they're out there, like being the best. But in reality, the majority of people in the Sea to Sky, let alone the rest of Canada, we're getting a D grade, right? We're not moving as much as we can. We're not meeting Canada's 24-hour health guidelines and movement guidelines. And so, we're only seeing like the top 10% because they're on Instagram and they're on, but they're not on Instagram all the time. They're just putting that one shot and they're actually out doing stuff. And so how do we, ensure that it's equitable and that all activity is being celebrated? So whether it's Tai Chi or Jiu-Jitsu or yoga or going for a walk in the woods, they're all good things, right? We don't have to be, like your point, racing our mountain bikes in a tuning race and coming in the top 3, right? So any movement is good movement. And then also encouraging and working with our Indigenous neighbors to ensure that they have as much access to sport and recreation and maybe culturally appropriate for them as well.
Yeah. And so I was looking, through your website and whatnot, and I was really blown away by how many activities that you guys support. Like you said, everything from yoga to, the 4-wheel mountain bikes to then the winter sports and paddleboard. I mean, you name it. There's a whole gamut of activities, and it's, it's really nice because, the crossover and, just keeping moving. And, I was blown away by how many things. I thought, oh, Whistler Adaptive Sports. Okay, they're probably, adaptive skiing and maybe some summer stuff. Maybe they're, a little bit of mountain biking stuff. But I didn't realize that how many activities that you guys and how many programs that you have.
Oh, absolutely. And it only made sense. So when I joined 16 years ago as the first full-time paid employee, and, the intent was to grow into a multi-sport organization. We were just skiing and snowboard during that time. Which, like Whistler was more ski and snowboard. But as Whistler's grown in the Sea to Sky and as Whistler Adaptive has grown, it only made sense to replicate what you'd find in a typical municipality, right? Kids need to learn how to play soccer and be part of a team. They need to learn how to swim. It's great to offer, class 3 whitewater kayaking to individuals with spinal cord injury, but if they can't swim,
that's right.
Right? It's kind of counterintuitive. So how do we build a foundation of movement and then create the more specialized programs? And so as much as people think, oh yeah, like ski, snowboard, or, mountain bike, they're the glory or, the high profile sports. The fundamental sports are the ones that get me really excited. And even, like growing up ski racing, ski racing was it. Like in my family, we were ski racers.
Right.
But as a sport parent, even, and being a parent has definitely helped inform a lot of our programming is, my daughter does 5 different activities a week. And then going back to that concept of physical literacy and even thinking back to my childhood before physical literacy was a thing, my mom was really good at making sure that as much as we ski raced in the winter, we still learned to Nordic ski, we swam, we learned to skate, we did gymnastics, we danced. And so it's really just making sure that, it's like your diet, right? You don't want to just eat carrots or you just don't want to eat ice cream. right?
It's so true. I mean, Devin, people, I know people, that, they were very, very good at one sport. Like they were, and we're Canadian. So it's like hockey. Everybody's about hockey. And it's just like, is your kid going to be in rep hockey? And in rep hockey, if you make it to a certain level, you literally have to sign a contract saying you will not ski, you will not do any of this other stuff because you don't want to get injured because you're playing hockey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So many kids, they've only evolved knowing one sport, and they do it really, really well. But like you said earlier, I've seen it. They get to the point and they burn out. They never want to play that sport ever again. Or maybe they take like 10 years off and come back in a beer league, maybe, or something. But it's so unfortunate that diversity, I think, diversity is kind of the answer. A little bit of everything, a little bit of tennis, a little bit of paddle, whatever it is, walking, skiing, biking, to have a well-rounded person and health. Hey, I mean, you've seen that, hey, Devin, and
yeah, for sure. And I was just going to ask Chelsey the question here.
Yeah.
We're going to take it back a little bit. You kind of answered it a little bit with what you just said, but obviously you were a very active person from such a young age and very driven. But what kind of like led you down this path? Like what started you on like, we should get people active, we should get people moving, and kind of taking you down the path you're on today?
Yeah, first of all, I was always active as a kid. We just, as a family, and we come from, like a very active family. My aunts were equestrian champions for Canada. Another aunt raced nationally on the national ski team with Nancy Green. My father raced for Canada sailing. And so it's, the bar was set pretty high.
Wow.
But at the same time, there was never any pressure to take that route, to go and, like a Olympics or bust kind of idea. And it was more just, making sure that that we always had opportunity. And then my parents were really involved in the Blackcomb Ski Club, which is now merged with the Whistler Mountain Ski Club. And when they ran the Nancy Green program there in the 1980s, there were 250 kids in the 1980s in the Blackcomb Ski Club, right? Mind blowing. And their idea was they wanted to get as many kids as possible active. So that's sort of the ethos we grew up in as a family. And then my grandfather was visually impaired, legally blind, and it didn't stop him from doing anything, right? So he was always out, skiing or, doing sport or fishing up in northern Quebec. And he ran major ski areas back east. He ran Mont Tremblant. He was the general manager of Chateau Frontenac and a vice president of CP Hotels. So for me, it just was super natural that anybody, I never saw disability, right? It's only ability. And then since becoming a parent and, having a very lifelong career in sport was, I look around and I sit at a soccer pitch, like twice a week, or outside dance classes. And it's like, why aren't other parents encouraging their kids to do more? Or how do we break down the barriers for all? So not just adaptive, but, making sure that that all these kiddos, and especially as they start aging, and I mean, Nigel, you've had some teenagers in your life, if teenagers don't have structure, that's when they become a little wayward, right? And so how do we keep, especially in small towns, be outside the hockey rink, having lots of opportunity to stay active and be social. And one really interesting thing, we're doing a lot of workshops on gender differences and how people participate in sport, men versus women and boys versus girls. And for girls, it's the social aspect always. And so if they have a solid group of friends right from when they start sport all the way to the Olympic and Paralympic Games, that social connection, that social group drives them. It's not the performance. Performance is in there as a driver, but it's that social connection. And so how do we create really positive friendships through sport and activity?
Yeah. I mean, you look back, like I look back, I mean, I was played soccer. I played all these rugby and all these sports. And I mean, I'm almost 60 and I still keep in touch with a ton of the guys on my soccer team when I was like 7, 8 years old, and they were in my elementary school. And it's so true. But Dev, you played hockey and rugby and football and soccer, so many things. And those social connections that you make last a lifetime. But I also have to say, for the parents too, it's part of our social, because I lived at the rink for years with all you guys and at the soccer pitch, and it's all the connection with all the parents and the parents' kids. And it's incredible. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
Lifelong friends.
Yeah. Like my coffee time on Saturday mornings is at the soccer pitch.
For
right?
sure.
And we
Yeah.
catch up and we talk.
Yeah.
You talk about life and you talk
Yeah.
about parenting, and
Yeah.
you know, it's super important. And this, again, in a small town where a lot of times, and we're all working from
Yeah.
home, and you know,
Yeah.
we all get too busy. And you know, I've learned through the pandemic, busyness is a bad word. And so we all need to slow down a little bit and spend more
Yeah.
time in nature. But
Yes, we do.
but to have that hour a week where you literally sit with your coffee and you talk to
I
other
know.
parents and connect, or talk about water issues, or talk about climate, whatever, you know, it's
Yeah.
just our time to really watch our kids have fun,
Yeah.
but at the same time take an
Yeah.
hour as parents and have some
I
respite.
really miss it, because we did it for years. I don't know, 18, 20 years, every weekend, you know, at the hockey rink or the soccer pitch or the rugby, whatever it was. And it was like the social aspect and watching the kids, and then it all just, when they all became 18 or 20, boom, it ended. And then we all started skiing a lot more and doing all this other stuff that we couldn't do because of the other sports. But I miss the social connection with all those friends that we made so many, you know, over so many years, at the soccer pitch or at the hockey rink. And yeah, it's an amazing time in life for sure, watching the kids do the sport and taking part in sport, right? Yeah. I actually I'm going to just share with you guys. I've got a couple of, where is it? Here we go. I've got some photos I'm going to throw up here. So here's a photo. I guess that's a photo of Chelsey here, and that's during the Olympics, the Paralympics. That was at Whistler in 2010.
Yep.
We're all very proud of that. We are extremely proud, people here in BC, over the Olympics. And this is what I find absolutely incredible, is these guys in their three-wheeled or four-wheeled mountain bikes. Because I ride the bike park at Whistler sometimes, and these guys are absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no, the you know, it's the bikes are amazing. And you know, sometimes, you know, we our very first bike we ever got was called a one-off, and it was a rigid frame. So, you know, like I learned how to mountain bike on a Kuahara rigid frame. So it took me back, right?
Reiko, my wife Reiko had a Kuahara. Yep. Yeah.
So oldie but goodie.
Yep.
And a few years ago, my friend Tara Yanis, Tara actually just competed in the Paralympic Games in basketball. So she was very proud of her. She's with the oldest person on the team, 41, and she got through the year practicing in her driveway and shooting hoops. She lives in North Van. And so she was injured in a BMX crash. And so she incurred a spinal cord injury. And her big light bulb moment that things would be okay was that her friends found these three-wheel bikes. They were made in Poland.
Yeah.
And they fundraised to bring one to Canada. And so she's able to start biking again. And now she has, not only is she competing in the Paralympic Games, but she has a flourishing rep business bringing the bikes into Canada. And we were the first program to actually purchase the bikes, because one of the major barriers to getting into biking, I mean, for anybody, but especially, you know, in an adaptive setting, is the cost of bike.
The cost, yeah.
Right. So these bikes start at $8,000, and they go to Stacy's bike's about 17. That he's up in the top left-hand corner.
Yes.
And so that's like totally cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for us to be able to offer these bikes in a guided setting, you know, with a lesson where somebody can come in and pay exactly what you pay in the marketplace to learn how to bike is amazing. So they're so popular. I mean, we basically can barely charge the e-batteries between sections.
I'd love to try one of these out. These look, I just see these guys and they just, you know, sometimes follow them down the bike path or the bike park, and I'm just blown away. Well, and then, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And the coolest thing too, is you think about, so especially individuals who are seated. So, you know, if you're seated, you're using either a manual wheelchair or a power chair. Your life is pretty much limited to a hardscape. Right. So you're on a hardscape probably 95% of the time. And to be able to get off the hardscape into a piece of adaptive equipment to get back into the forest and into nature. It's just like mind blowing. And I have a good friend, Jocelyn, and she was a gamer, right? So she was one of these people, we're talking about health crisis and, you know, being overly digitized. And so she would be, you know, in her house and she'd constantly be game. And she came out as a staff member for Spinal Cord Injury BC, and we put her in one of these bikes. And she has become a lifelong biker. Like in 4 years, she went and bought her own bike. She lives in Nanaimo. She's become a trail advocate for the island and raiding trails and advocating for trail renovations. And it's just amazing what one session and one specific piece of equipment can click and just change somebody's life.
Yeah. Oh man. I know. And then you got all the skiing, which I've seen the skiing. This is what I always thought was sort of adaptive sport was this, right? Because I've seen this for years and years and years, and it's incredible how some of these guys and girls, just rip down the mountain.
Absolutely. And again, it's freedom, right? So it's freedom, it's independence, it's being able to get out again in nature, to have that sense of total, like the sensation of just flying, right? Gliding, gliding is such an amazing feeling. And whether it's on ice, whether it's on the snow, and not only do we do alpine skiing, which is super awesome, we do a lot of Nordic skiing too. And the reason why we love Nordic, and I discovered Nordic, I cross country skied, of course, all through my youth, but my first day on a pair of skate skis was just like hooked, right? And then I tried biathlon, and that was just like, whoa, this is like way too much fun. Is you can easily transfer, you drive up to the Callahan, you're on a snowmat.
The Callahan's is just stunning. I just love it up there.
Yeah, it's just such a special place. But like, you can literally be in a sit ski learning how to ski in 5 minutes flat. You can be skiing independently with your family within an hour. Like, how cool is that?
It is very cool. And it's not that it's never crowded whenever I go up there. It's just, we ski around up there. And then they got some great snowshoe trails too. Up in the Callahan, the lodge is, come in, have a hot chocolate, and then head home. It's great. It's like 10 minutes from Whistler. It's fantastic.
And you can take your dog.
That's right. Yeah, you can take. We've never taken our dog. Our dog would probably disappear, but
No, but I have a friend who's a C5-6 tetraplegic, and he goes skiing independently, every time he's in Whistler, and he takes his 2 dogs, and his wife doesn't have to come with him. Like, he's completely independent.
Right. And don't they have, isn't it, like, is it Callahan? They have night, like one night a week or something. What is it? Wednesday? I can't remember. Was it
Wednesdays? Wednesday meets.
Yeah, I love that. And then here, and this is really interesting too, because I see these people, at Whistler, on Cypress. So they're people that I guess they have a disability, and then they get the guide to take them around the mountain, and they're not necessarily able. Maybe they can't ski or whatever, but they're getting guided around by these little sleds and kind of pushed around, and their faces are just lit up. It's remarkable to see. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, this is actually Olivia. So she lives in Whistler, and she actually is skiing. So she's on a set of tethers. So what the tethers do is it allows the instructor or the coach to help her brake, right? And so she is skiing herself. It's just they're just there as an extra safety precaution so that she can actually stop her brake.
Right.
And then they assist her on and off the lift. But no, she's skiing.
Oh, she's skiing. Because I know I think it was another one, like a much bigger thing, and the actual instructor kind of holds on to it, and it's almost like a guided. It's almost like a tour guided type thing. Like they guide them around if you can. And for elder people too that can't ski, like they may be somebody in their 60s, 70s or whatever that just or have never skied, and they're giving them the experience of skiing, right? And they're on a sled and they're pushing them around on the mountain. Yeah.
Well, yeah, those are called snow limos. So they used to be, so they used to have them at Worcester Blackcomb, but they're no longer there. The one thing for us that sort of differentiates between like a snow limo and what we do is even if somebody's being bucketed or thumbed, which means the instructor has their hands in the actual sit ski, is the participant's always active. They're always active in the activity to whatever ability they can be. So even if they're what we would call a full assist, so we're actively moving the sit ski, they still have their arms moving or leaning on their shoulders. And so there is still a sporting action that's happening. Whereas in a snow limo, not to knock snow limos, as you say, they're great, like you can get your grandparents out, etc. That's what I call a unique experience. So it's like going zip trekking, right? You're not the person who's out there like rigging yourself up and like, zip trekking is a passive activity. And so are snow limos. Whereas, if somebody was learning how to rock climb, but, maybe they don't have full hand function or is you can still create a mechanical advantage that allows them to have, you know, a little bit of movement and to be able to get up that rope, right? So it's basically like aid climbing. So there is still whatever ability they do have will cater to that ability so that they are an active participant in their own sporting activity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. That's, yeah, does make sense. Absolutely. And then these guys, I just love seeing these people on the mountain, the blind, like you said, was your father, your grandfather, your grandfather?
My grandfather. Yeah. So I used to guide him. So it's, you know, guiding is it's such a trust relationship, right? And, you know, you have to really, you know, essentially you're trusting each other, right? The person who is sighted and the person who is visually impaired. And there's so many different guiding techniques, and you know, it's such a cool thing to be able to sit there and still be able to get out and glide, right? It's the feeling of gliding that is so empowering. And even if you ever have the chance, there's a great movie that was put out called Blind Faith. And it's all about Mac Marcoux, who's won multiple Paralympic medals for Canada over 3 games. And his new guide, Tristan Rogers, they're both lovely, lovely young men. And they're riding, well, they ride the bike park, which is kind of nuts. And they're riding like Black Diamond Bike Park, and Tristan's guiding him. But I mean, these guys are going 110, 120 kilometers an hour. And
oh my gosh.
Mac has, I think, about 6% vision. Right. And so it's just like, so they're elite world-class athletes. I mean, they could easily compete in the Olympics. They are classified in the Paralympics. But it's just absolutely incredible. And then, you know, the other person who always blows my mind is Robin Mckeever. So Robin is a para-Nordic athlete, but he also competed, you know, qualified for both the Olympics and the Paralympics. And in the latest games, I mean, the Olympic guys come over and guide Robin in the Paralympics, and he ends up dropping the Olympic guides because they can't keep up. So it's just, he fell in Pyeongchang and won the sprints, and he got up and he still won. Like, he's just a machine. The guy's a machine. So you ever have a chance to get on YouTube and look up Robin Mckeever, he's just like, he's a legend.
Wow. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's just so inspiring. It, you know, we complain, you know, when we get a bit of ice on our goggles or something, or they're fogged they're fogged up, right? Oh man. So what was I going to say here? So yeah, we just had the Olympics. We just had the Olympics in Tokyo, right? The Summer Olympics, and the Canadians, you know, did really well. But then we have the Winter Olympics, because of the COVID thing, coming up in Beijing, I think in February. Is that right?
It is. It's Beijing in February. Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting. It's my offices are actually in the High Performance Center, where the Canadian Sport Institute also is. They have a few campuses across Canada. And so, for example, Skier Across Canada is there, Paralpine Canada. So it's very quiet in our building right now because we had all the people in, all the teams in preparing for Tokyo, and then flying off to Tokyo. And then, of course, all the winter teams are in preparing for Beijing, but now they're all in Europe. And yeah, no, really excited. It's, you know, it is a quick turnaround between games, but it's going to be really interesting to see what legacy opportunities are going to come out of Beijing, especially on the Paralympic side. I had the chance to go to Beijing in 2008. And although they had built major sport complexes and they had a very successful Paralympic Games, and not just as a nation, but also as a country, we didn't see the same type of leverage of the games for legacy as we have in the Whistler, Vancouver area. So like, if you go to Beijing, it's not very accessible. While we were there, I was with a few friends who were seated. We couldn't get around very easily. In Tokyo, they were busing people everywhere. And, you know, as much as it's great that they're reusing the bird's nest and reusing the green, is, you know, I'm really hopeful that they'll really think about this games as a way to build long-term participation in sport and long-term accessibility and inclusion for their society, like we did.
Yeah. I know Vancouver, you know, Vancouver Whistler was fantastic. And, you know, we were, as a local, we were like, it's probably going to be crazy. Maybe we should leave and leave. And a lot of people did. A lot of people left and they went on vacation for those 2 weeks. And we stuck around, and we were fortunate because a friend of mine had a company that was working there, so we got passes and all this stuff. So we attended a lot of it, and it was absolutely mind-boggling, incredible, so well organized. I can't say enough. We had the time of our lives, and I'm so glad that we didn't leave. It was, and so it's really, it's exciting that another Winter Olympics is coming up here in February. And I'm just wondering, for Whistler Adaptive, do you have any like fundraising events or anything coming up? Because I know it's been kind of strange because of COVID to do anything, and maybe online or
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So we aren't hosting a gala this year. Last year we did one online.
Yeah.
It was a little bit stressful, to say the least, to try to produce an hour of live TV. But we do have an annual giving campaign that will launch on Giving Tuesday, where we're hoping to raise $50,000.
Okay.
And then also we have very good friends at the Delta in Whistler. So for the last 14 years, they've hosted fundraisers for us. This year, they're hosting a virtual auction, and I can share the link with you guys.
Yes.
And it will benefit not just Whistler Adaptive, but also BC Children's, which obviously, we both, serve very, very similar participant base. So we're really excited that they're putting on the auction yet again this year.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And then also our listeners, they can also, purchase like a sit ski lesson for a parathlete, right? Or some yoga or some swimming sessions, and they can do that too, can't they?
Absolutely. There's lots of ways to target donations, and we, as much as I've talked about equity in sport throughout the session, is we believe that, there should be no financial barrier to sport, although sport does cost money, right? There's no doubt about that. I minister sport, I'm a sport leader. You need money to run sport, but we do run a bursary program. So if somebody can't afford our lesson fees, which are the same as if you went swimming at a local swimming pool, like if you're paying $7 to go to a park, you pay $7 to come to us, even though we have a specialized coach and one-on-one support. So somebody can apply for up to $1,000 per year in credit towards their sport programming, and $1,000 goes a long ways if they're doing community-based sport. So it's 3 times as much as you could get through kids sport. So it's quite generous, and we're really proud to be able to offer that support so that there is no barrier anymore.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Wow, that's fantastic. So what we'll do is we'll put a link here when this episode goes out. We'll put a link so people can look into Whistler Adaptive more, and also a button there so they can donate and help some people get into or continue sport, get into sport, enjoy it even more than they've already have been. So this is great. I'm just wondering if we got any. Do you have any other questions there, Dev?
No, not really.
That hits you.
Yeah, close it out there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Chelsey, any other little bits you want to throw at us here?
No, we're just so excited to get back into winter. Running full programs again, which is just so exciting. I was talking to one of our major funders the other day, and he was like, "Your face is lighting up. You're talking about group programs," because we've been in private lessons for a year and a half, or small groups, and to be able to have peer-to-peer interaction again, and to be able to share equipment, it was such an odd time, and we literally could not share equipment. So how do you run a physical literacy program? You can't throw a ball to each other. So we had to really reimagine how we did things. But the really great thing is that we've learned a ton, and I'm super hopeful that we're all building back better. This is going to be really good bounce back, and we've learned so many good lessons. And the biggest lesson of all is I just hope people get out, get active, and look after their physical and mental health.
I totally agree with you. And I know that the whole thing when we were, locked down in COVID, Reiko and I were so fortunate. We spent the year, we lived at Whistler for the year, and we were out every day. We were like 2, 3, 4 hour hikes up into the mountains and skiing, and I don't think I've ever been so fit mentally and physically. And just getting out into nature, just the power of nature. And we said on other podcasts here that, the Japanese call it tree bathing. And it's so true, just to get out in nature, just for a walk, just for a little bit for your, your physical and your mental health. It's so important. So what you're doing is incredible, and working with these people to show them and help them get out into nature in any way possible,
Exactly. Yeah.
And-
How
and
you do
team
it
sport.
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Just-
Yeah.
Just as long as you're moving your body.
That's just like my buddy Paul said. He's going to listen to this. He's going to, oh, not just talking about me again, but he's my neighbor and he's great. I love him. But he's just like, Nigel, it's all about longevity. And that's all that's it. I should get a t-shirt. It's all about longevity.
Look at Jack Rabbit Johansson, right? Do you guys remember Jack Rabbit Johansson? Yeah. So he was Canada's oldest man, right?
Yeah,
he lived to 111 years old. And guess what he did every single day? He went for a long walk
shot
in
of
the summer.
whiskey. No, oh yeah, okay.
And he went cross-country skiing in the winter. He went every day.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I know there was somebody on the news just seems like 102, 103 World War II vet, I think here. And it's like the same. It's just like got to keep moving. And my grandmother, emotion is the lotion.
Motion is lotion. 100%.
I like that. And my grandma would always say it's always that shot of whiskey before she goes to bed. But she lived till like she was like 90 as well. So
that
just one. It was just one. It was just one.
Moderation is key.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thanks so much, Chelsey. Really, really appreciate it. I guess Devil.
Well, yeah, like Nigel said, thank you so much for coming on the show. If you guys would like to know more about Chelsey and all of her endeavors, we'll put those links into the description of the video. Check out www.whistleradaptive.com. If you like what we're doing, please like, share, and subscribe. Other than that, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It means a lot to me and my dad. And yeah, have an awesome rest of your day. And we'll have to have you back on the show again at some point.
Yeah, and we'll see you.
Thank you guys.
We'll see you up at Whistler.
Sounds great. We'll go for a few runs together.
You betcha. That sounds great. Thanks, Chelsey.
Thank you.
See you later.